This is a tutorial, but it's also an essay plan to answer this GCSE 16 mark question. So you can pause the video whenever you want as you're writing up your paragraph by paragraph, using the timeline in your book to make a clear judgment what was the main reason why Hitler was able to establish a dictatorship, i.e. a one-party state with him as leader, in Germany by 1934. You will use the following in your answer and any other information from your timeline: the Reichstag fire and the Enabling Act. Those are the 2 points you're going to be arguing over, which was the main reason for why Hitler was able to establish a dictatorship. So let's go through this. Firstly, the Reichstag fire on the 27th of February 1933 was very important. You've got the notes in your book as to why that happened. The key points: the fire gave Hitler the opportunity to attack and weaken the communists. They were the major threat to him. The Communist Party were an extreme left-wing party that really attracted the attention of the workers. Hitler wanted all of the working class to be supporting him as an obedient workforce. Therefore, to weaken the communists was a great opportunity. So the fire was an opportunity for him to take more control, politically and socially, of Germany by removing or weakening the communists, blaming the fire on them. Remember, it was a Dutch communist who was found as the instigator of the fire. Number 2. Hitler was able to claim that there was a communist conspiracy against the Weimar government and that the government was being attacked. So therefore he was able to convince Hindenburg, President Hindenburg, to declare a state of emergency and rule by Article 48, allowing Hitler to use his own laws and decrees to govern Germany. Therefore, he was able to convince Hindenburg to call an election for the 5th of March 1933 to gain a majority for the Nazi Party. He wanted to have the power to be able to create all the laws that he wanted to by gaining a majority. This was an ideal way to show the Nazi Party was strong and taking control of the chaos that was ensuing in Germany. He was not breaking the law, but using the powers afforded to him by the Weimar Republic. Before the election, Hitler issued the Decree for the Protection of the People and the State. This gave him the power to remove the civil rights of individuals and of the German people. So he was able to start arresting political opponents, especially the communists. The point I'm making here is the Reichstag fire was absolutely vital in giving Hitler the opportunity to call an election and start to change the Weimar Republic. It was the opportunity he was looking for. So it's very important. It enabled him to send many of the communist and political opponents to the newly formed concentration camps, and it gave him control of the German police force under the leadership of Hermann Göring. This enabled the SA to be as violent as they wanted to, because nobody could stop them, because Hitler had complete social and political control. Many big businesses also gave him huge sums of money because he was defeating communism. So the Nazis were becoming wealthy, so they could finance a great election campaign in March 1933. And this was widespread. There were widespread deaths and violence. So out of all this chaos and social disorder, it appears that Hitler is taking control and that the Nazis are very strong. And when people were looking for strong leadership, this has given Hitler the ideal opportunity to show the strength of the Nazis, especially to all sectors of society. The election, March 1933. Hitler gained 288 seats. This was huge. Hitler had used the emergency powers to ban the communists from taking their seats, and he had also joined in allegiance with the other right-wing nationalist parties. So Hitler had a 2/3 majority and could now start passing his own laws. But he hadn't broken any laws. This was not unconstitutional. He was using the setup of the Weimar Republic. So if you're weighing up what's more important, the Reichstag fire is more important than the election, because without it there wouldn't have been an election, because Hitler wouldn't have been able to convince that President Hindenburg that the state was under attack, and therefore the election was needed. This wouldn't have given him the huge majority to start pressing forward with his own laws. This pie chart shows you how Hitler was gaining more votes in March 1933. Okay, the dark blue and the light blue show the majority that he was gaining. And these are the SA men intimidating outside polling booths and voting stations. Another critical act as part of your timeline is the Enabling Act, passed late March 1933. It was his first law, and it changed the constitution that set up the Weimar Republic. In fact, it killed the Republic, and it ended democracy in Germany. Hitler could now make any law he wanted for 4 years without the consent, the permission of the Reichstag. As you can see, it was passed 444 votes to 94, so it was legal. It was also passed because the Sturmabteil and the SA intimidated other politicians. This law was critical because it meant he could start to make change. He could pass his own laws. So, the next stage of action is he banned the trade unions in May 1933. The reason why I wanted to get rid of the trade unions is they were heavily connected to communism, and they could organise strikes. They were leaders of the working classes. They would fight for better rights and deals and conditions for the workers, and they could organise strikes. Hitler wanted an obedient workforce that would do as they were told and be loyal to Germany. He didn't want this threat. So, trade union leaders were put into open prisons called concentration camps. The same for political parties. They were banned in 1934, except for the Nazis, the NSDAP. So Hitler was becoming Germany was becoming a one-party state. This was strengthening Hitler and his control, socially and politically, of Germany. Now, if you're judging what was most important, the main reason, the banning of trade unions and political parties and making Germany a one-party state would only have happened because of the Enabling Act. But the Enabling Act would only have happened because Hitler had won the election in March 1933. But this is all linked to the Reichstag fire. So you've got to judge the Enabling Act or the Reichstag fire. In my opinion, is probably the most important reasons why Hitler was able to consolidate his power and create a one-party state, i.e. dictatorship, with him as the leader in Germany. These are political opponents being marched to the concentration camp during this time, and the arrest of many trade unionists by the SA. Okay, another factor on your timeline is Hitler reorganised local government. He had 18 Landers, i.e. local governments, around the different German states. He abolished the Länder parliaments and appointed Nazi governors, i.e. puppets, to run each area, Nazi officials. So basically, he was controlling centrally from Berlin and replicating this all around Germany. So he really had a strong stranglehold over the politics and the structure of governance over Germany, how Germany was run, because there was no other party to oppose him. So by the start of 1934, Hitler was a one-party state. Germany, was a one-party state. This is important, but is it as important as the Enabling Act or the Reichstag fire? Or is it another example of how Hitler was able to reorganise because he had no opposition thanks to the Enabling Act? The final factor or event of your timeline is the Night of the Long Knives. This was on the 30th of June 1934, a very bloodthirsty, violent act from Hitler. So far up to this point, Hitler has used the constitution of the Weimar Republic to destroy the Weimar Republic. This was highly illegal. Prior to this, his work had been legal. Now Hitler feared Ernst Röhm, who was leader of the SA. There were 3 million men in the Sturmabteilung who were loyal to Röhm. Röhm criticised Hitler's policies. He wanted Germany to be more socialist. He didn't like Hitler's link to the big business and rich industrialists and the financial support they were giving Hitler to destroy communism. The German army feared Röhm. Well, they would do. They only had 100,000 men since the Treaty of Versailles. But the SA were very violent and had grown to over 3 million men. So with Röhm's influence, he could be dangerous. And Röhm wanted to assimilate the army into the SA and to keep control of this army of SA men. The SS leaders Himmler and Heydrich, they resented Röhm. They wanted the SS to be powerful. During 1934, SS and the army warned Hitler that Röhm was planning to seize power. So on the 30th of June, Hitler organised for Röhm and SA leaders to be rounded up, imprisoned and shot. Over a period of 4 days, 400 people, including high-ranking SA officials, were murdered. Hitler was removing the opposition and the power, like he had done with the trade unions and the political parties, but in a very ruthless, illegal way. Key figures like von Papen, who you've learnt about, who believed he could have Hitler in his pocket, i.e. could control him, were murdered. So was von Schleicher, a former chancellor. But no one could stop Hitler. Why? Because there was no political parties to stop him, no police state. He was in total control. Many Germans also hated the SA, so they felt it was right to restrain and end their power. And out of all of this disorder, Hitler was taking full control. The SS were now powerful. They became Hitler's main bodyguard. Finally, President Hindenburg died, and Hitler became the Führer. He moved to take supreme power. The army now swore an oath to Adolf Hitler. He assumed all of the president's power and was now known as the Führer. The Weimar Republic had ended, and Hitler's Third Reich was born. So, the Night of the Long Knives is really important because it really removed the last strands of opposition to Hitler and gave him complete control of the army, and President Hindenburg dying was another opportunist moment for Hitler. But are those 2 points really as important as the Enabling Act or the Reichstag fire? Those are the 2 points in your final conclusion. You'll be arguing about which one was the main reason for how Hitler was able to establish a dictatorship. However, the Night of the Long Knives is very important because it gave Hitler complete control of the forces of terror and the military, which any dictator would need. So, is it the Reichstag fire, the Enabling Act, the removal of the of trade unionists and political opponents and political parties, making Germany a one-party state, or the Night of the Long Knives and the murder of 400 high-ranking officials that really enabled Hitler to create a dictatorship in Germany? You decide.